Welcome to James Joyce's divine and delirious comedy Finnegans Wake. In this episode, number 19, we'll hear Irish-Canadian actor and my good friend and colleague Richard Harte performing pages 92 to 96 from Chapter 4 of Joyce's last novel. I'm Adam Seelig, the director of the reading you'll soon hear. I'm happy to let you know that later this month, One Little Goat Theatre Company is releasing the complete film of Finnegans Wake Chapter 3 on our website and YouTube channel. Join our email list to be the first to know. Finnegans Wake is a production of One Little Goat Theatre Company. For the next 5 years, One Little Goat will film and record all 17 chapters, roughly 30 hours, of Joyce's Finnegans Wake before live audiences in various locations, screening and releasing them along the way with the aim of completing the entire book in time for its 90th birthday, May 4th of 2029. One Little Goat Theatre Company is an official charity in Canada and the United States. If you'd like to support our work, please visit us online at www.onelittlegoat.org to make a charitable donation. To get in touch with us, you'll find our email address on One Little Goat Theatre Company's website, and we'd love to hear from you. Today's excerpt features the four old men, among the most amusing characters in all of Finnegans Wake. We'll also get a first teasing look at what might be the contents of the famous letter by ALP that promises to exonerate her beleaguered spouse HCE. The four old men combine, as you'd expect from Finnegans Wake, the high and the low, the sacred and profane. They are at once the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and the four drunks of the World War I drinking song that goes something like this. Glorious, glorious, one keg of beer for the four of us. Glory be to God that there ain't no more of us. The four of us could drink it all alone. For those wanting a more polished version of the song, I've linked to it in the transcript of this episode posted on One Little Goat's website. The four of them, as I simply like to call them, the four of them are often referred to as Mama Lujo, an abbreviation for Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They are, in fact, the first published characters of Finnegans Wake, appearing in Ford Madox Ford's Transatlantic Review just over 100 years ago. And for more on that, I've linked in the transcript to Peter Crisp's terrific blog, From Swerve of Shore to Bend of Bay. The four of them are also the four provinces of Ireland, always appearing in the novel in the same order. First is Ulster with its capital of Belfast. Next is Munster with Cork, its capital. Third is Leinster and its capital Dublin. And last is Connaught with its capital of Galway. In that order, with Ulster North, Munster South, Leinster East, and Connaught West, they form the shape of the cross. As John Gordon explains, the usual Mama Lujo order imposed on the map of Ireland traces the traditional Catholic sequence of crossing oneself, up, down, left, right. In the Orthodox churches, it is up, down, right, left. Adeline Glasheen contends that Mama Lujo also stands for James Joyce's spouse, daughter, and son. Mama, i.e. Nora Joyce, Lucia, Giorgio. Mama Lujo. And the four of them are also the four Gaelic authors of the monumental 17th century chronicle of Irish history, known as the Annals of the Four Masters. We met them briefly back in Chapter 1.
Four things, therefore, saith our hereditary Mamalugis in his grand old Historiorum, wrote near Boriorum. Blues book and Boyle's Annals. FT and Differnarski near Sal failed till heather smoking cloudweed airs Isle Salpal. And here now they are, the fear of them.
There's only one small problem with these four analysts. Their memories are fuzzy and often more concerned with romantic reverie than factual accuracy. In today's excerpt, they take on the role of four judges reaching a verdict on the courtroom proceedings. The four of them put their heads together on the matter, or as the text puts it, quote, the four justicers laid their wigs together, close quote. And given the general haziness of these four old men, it will come as no surprise that they default to a verdict of not guilty for Pegger Festi/Festi King, whom we encountered in our previous episode. Soon after, they are back in their chambers talking about our protagonists Anne Olivia Pluribel and H.C. Earwicker, wondering what ALP could possibly see in HCE, whom they deride as, quote, Singabob, the bad father, close quote, a mere thingabob comprised of sin and badness, a far cry, in other words, from the heroic Sinbad of the Arabian Nights. This then eventually leads to some recollections of past romance, along with plenty of fluid argument, or as the text calls it, contra-drinking, and finally concludes today's excerpt, perhaps harmoniously, with a drunken round of the most famous glass-raising song of them all, Robbie Burns' Auld Lang Syne. Today's excerpt also provides a teaser of ALP's letter that will, she hopes, clear HCE's much maligned name. Quote, the solid man saved by his sillied woman. We'll visit this letter in great detail in our next chapter, Chapter 5. In the meantime, Chapter 4 gives us a sneak peek at 2 letters in the letter or in reaction to the letter, plus a few marks of punctuation. The letters are A and O, separated by an extended ellipsis and a question mark and exclamation mark with a final exclamation mark after the O. If you want to see it on the page, take a look on One Little Goat's website, and here, in the spirit of sneak peeks, is Richard Harte reading it in today's excerpt.
Now tell me then. What was it? Ah. Oh.
From A to O, the letter might contain everything from alpha to omega. If so, the exclamation mark at the end is well warranted. Just prior to the letter, the text reminds us of HCE's sin, so reminiscent of Adam and Eve's original sin, with the fruit of sexual knowledge here appearing via the Latin word malum, meaning both apple and evil. As the text puts it, quote, Anna mala woe is we. This leads to HCE's Humpty Dumpty-like fall, or as the text describes him, quote, old obster lumpy pumpkin, adding another appropriately fall fruit to the scene. And then we're told, quote, and that was how from sin from sun, a city arose, fin fun, a sitting arrows. So we've lost paradise once again, but like our biblical forebears, make the most of it. From sin, from sex, children, and from such multiplying cities and civilization. It all starts with Cupid's prick, if you will, quote, a sitting arrows. Fallen humanity raises a city. What goes down must come up and down again, etc. It makes Las Vegas's nickname redundant. Every metropolis is a sin city. Here the Wake is recirculating the Catholic concept of felix culpa, referring to the fall of Adam and Eve as fortunate because it gives humanity the opportunity to rise again, much like the phoenix of Dublin's Phoenix Park that's central to Finnegans Wake. Joyce has built and based his city on sin, sex, love. For fun and fin, I'd like to offer a contrasting urban model offered by 19th century Portuguese author José Maria de Essa de Queiroz. In de Queiroz's ingenious reimagining of humanity's origins, titled Adam and Eve in Paradise, it's not sinful sex but cowering fear that builds our cities. Here's an excerpt in the new translation by Margaret Joel Costa. We, his descendants, owe our supremacy to Adam's cowering terror. It was thanks to those bestial threats that he was obliged to climb up to the highest peaks of humanity. The Mesopotamian poets of Genesis revealed their understanding of man's origins in those subtle verses in which the serpent, that most dangerous of creatures, leads Adam out of love for Eve to eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge. If the troglodyte lion had never roared, man would not now be working in cities, because civilization was born out of his desperate attempts to defend himself against both the unfeeling and the unthinking. Society is really the work of the wild beasts. Before we get to Richard's reading, a quick synopsis of today's excerpt in sequence. WP and Pegger Festi, the 2 witnesses to take the stand in the courtroom drama of our 2 previous episodes, are presented in contrast, with WP appearing to attract all the women. Having reached their non-committal verdict of not guilty, the 4 justices release Pegger, who, unable to contain his excitement on his way out of court, lets out a massive fart that elicits cries of shame from the gallery. We then get a glimpse of ALP's letter, as we just discussed, followed by the four of them contra-drinking each other about ALP and HCE. And one last note for the Canadian listeners out there. I hope you appreciate the prophetic reference in today's reading to Toronto's worst bus route, bus number 29 along Dufferin Street, popularly known as Suffering Dufferin. Now it's time for Richard's performance of James Joyce's Finnegans Wake, page 92, line 6 to page 96, line 24 of chapter 4. The performance was filmed and recorded at Type Books on Queen Street West in Toronto on January 22nd, 2024, with a live audience.
The hilario hoot of Pegger's wind-up conjostled as neatly with the tone of the wet pointers as were they ishe et ille, equals of opposites, evolved by a one same power of nature or of spirit, iste, as the sole condition and means of its him and her manifestation, and polarized for a union by the synthesis of their antipathies. Distinctly different were their duo's destinies, whereas the maidies of the bar, a peerless trentine, a lunar score, when the Aranthus murmured, shone the post, flattered and fluttered around the willingly pressed, nominating him for the swiney prize, complimenting him, the captivating youth, on his having all his senses about him, stinking thiacins through his curves, oh fiend, oh door, and bringing buzzes to his cheeks, their masculine Irish arose, his knees clear, and legando round his nice new neck for him, and pitsy cagnolin his woolly wags, with their dindy dandy sugar to candy, mecry me postine flowns courier to believe them of all his untiring young dames, and send treats in their times, amen. But it was not unobserved of those presents, their worships, how of one among all, her deputized to defame him by the Lunar Sisters Celibacy Club, a love-looking leap girl, all alone, genty a gemma of the make giddy culling beaks, he, wan and pale in his unmixed admiration, seemed blindly, mutely, tastelessly, tactlessly, enamoured with her upon him in shining amminglement, the shame of his zoo, shifting into the shimmering of hers. Beauty, he's her chap, and she'll tell me ma's when she gaes home, till the wild wish of her she melted most musically mid the dark, deep of his Sean. And whereas distracted, for was not just this an effect which had just caused that the effect of that which had caused to occur? The four justicers laid their wigs together, Unches, Munches, Punches, and Pilax, but could do no worse than promulgate their standing verdict of Nolan's broomance, wherein after King, having murdered all the English he knew, picked out his pockets and left the tribunal scot-free, trailing his Tommy Lummy's tunic in his hurry, there and under proudly showing off the bling pitch to his brick gits to prove himself, and Plasios, a rail genteel. To the Swiss bodyguards curial but court-like, Commodore Valley O'Hary, Arthur Jenny Rousey. The firewater louver retorted with such a vine-smelling, 42 ages raw down M's Tanya as were the Latin stomach even of a Thomas Aquinas. We were prepared for the chap's clap cap, the accent, but took us as, by surprise, and now we're getting it like gush gash from a burner. So then all the two from 30 advocatesses with an echo, pulling up their briefs at the Crig cry, shun the pun, man! Safely and soundly succoured at that feminine parish poser. How dare he? Unpromptu right away, Hames. Must do his thanks, gratias sagam, to all the wrong donatresses, bis drink battles dingy dwellings, where, for like her true Venus and Esau, he was dove timid as the deers at bottom. He shat in, zoo, like the muddy gallboy knew he was, done, the chastity's bells conclaiming, you and your gift of your gaff of your garbage about our father, in game gridendo, han, verg, nah, booter, scam, shams, shames. And so it all ended. Arthur came a dam a moxa, as caviar for the K. And so everybody heard their plaint, and all listened to their applause. The letter, and the pseudo the bitter, of eyebrow penciled, by lips stipple pinned, borrowing a word and begging the question, and stealing tinder and slipping like soap. From dark Rosa Lane a sigh and a weep, from Lesbia Lush the beam in her eye, from lone Coogan Barry his arrow of song, from Sean Kelly's anagram a blush at the name, from Ian the Sullivan that trumpeting tramp, from Suffering Dufferin the sit of her style, from Kathleen Mayvern and her Ned Fair efforts, from Verdabot Gurney's Scotch love McCreeder, from him Opus 2 Philadelphus the weary, or the leery, or from Samuel Lever, or Damuel Lover, that jolly old Mollybit, or that bored Saunter boy, from Tim Finnegans weak tribes, loss of strength to his so real, from the winning of the green, a girlies, the goodness of joy boys, from Pat Mullen, Tom Malin, Dan Meldon, Don Meldon, a slick stick picnic made in mobile dunes. The solid man saved by his silly woman, crack a joking away like a hearse on fire. The arm that whimpers at the top told the stone that moans when stricken. Wind broke it, wave bore it, reed wrote of it, Sice ran with it, hand tore it, and wild went war. Hen treeved it, and pledged peace. It was folded with cunning, sealed with crime, uptied by a harlot, undone by a child. It was life, but was it fair? It was free, but was it art? The old hunks on the hill read it to perlection. It made ma make merry, and Sissy so shy, and rubbed some shine off Shem, and put some shame into Sean. Yet una night a spill famine with drought, and Agrippa, a pro-pastard, spares tribulations in his train. Fork the fructa timid Denides, in a mila melamon, Frey's frau, and Swee is two. Swee is two, and Swoo is free. Animala woe is we. A pair of sickle panties with the migdalin eyes, on our old obster lumpty pumpkin, and 3 meddlers on their slice. And that was how Francine, from sun, Acity arose. Fin fin, fun fun, a sitting arrows. Now tell me then. What was it? Oh. So there you are now then. There they were, when all was over again, the 4 with them, sitting around up in their judges' chambers in the monument room of their Marshalsea under the auspices of Lally, round their old traditional tables of the law, like so many solents to talk it over all the same again. Well and truly dry, suffering law the drink, according to King's evidence. So help her go and kiss the book. Festives and hyajigs and ginty on and her beaty Rossi, Betty, Doty, and not to forget now Aduna O'Darna. The 4 of them, and thank court now there were no more of them. So pass the push for port's sake, be it soon. Ah-ho! And do you remember Singabob, the bad father, the same, the great how do you call him at his old nickname, Dirty Daddy Pantaloons, in his Monopolians, behind the bar of the 2 Roses with Michael Victory, the Sheemans priester, before he got his paper dispensation from the Poke, old Minster York. Do I mind? Oh, I mind a gush off the man like Ballybookman there works on a trade wind's day. And the O'Reilly Gracies and the O'Briddy Rossies chaffing a blue face and playing in pranks. How do you do to do not, mister? Get into my way. Ah, dear own for sale is she, gone over the bays. And gin a body, meet a body. Yeah, why would he heed that old gasometer with his hoop and coppet and his dying boozy cough? And all the birds of the south side after her, Minxie Cunningham, They're dear divorcee, darling. Jimmy's and Johnny's to be her Joe. Hold hard. There's 3 other corners to our island's cork float. Sure 'tis well I can tell a smell of H2CE3 that would take a township's breath away. Gobbin, I knows him too well as I do myself. Even up the K-Wall by the 32 to 11 with his lime look and horse bags full of sesame seed. Oh, I'd so I'd Kaffir. And his Siemens of fluvium and his scent-painted voice puffing out his thunder in big brown cabbage. Pa! That I'm glad a golfer his pa's dean Fionn. Go bother, says he, lanky seed. Go buggy ye, says I. Oh, breezes, I sniffed that lad long before anyone. It was when I was in my far father out of the west, and she and myself, the red-headed girl, first nighting down Sycamore Lane. Fine field play we had of it mid the kissabets frisking in the cool curkle dusk of the lushness. My perfume of the pampas, says she, meaning me, putting out her nether lights, and I'd sooner one precious sip of your pure mountain dew than enrich my acquaintance with that big brewer's belch. And so they went on, the 4 bottle men, the analysts, hungum and nungum and lungum again, they're anchless about her who's before and his whereafters, and how she was lost away in the farm, and how he was found deep and deep in an ear, and the rustlings and the twitterings and the raspings and the snappings and the sighings and the paintings and the cuckooings and the hist, spring apartings and the hast, the bye-bye Scotlands and the scandal monkers and the pure craigs that used to be up that time living, lying and reading and riding around Nunsbury Square, and the buds in the bush, and the laughing jackass, areek, 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 the roses white in the derrick, and some fellas' noses got rhinoceros from hunting the rose in the paddock. So all rogues leaned to rhyme, contra-drinking themselves about Lily Tilly, Lawpan Hilly, and Mrs. Nile of the 9 Corsages, and the old Marcus, the best of her. And sure there was never a Marcus at all among the men. He said, dear Sir Amory, queer Sir Rumory, and the old house by the Chirper Lizard. The goings on so very wrong. Long before then they were going on retreat. In the old Gammadags, the 4 of them, in Milton's Park, under lovely Father Whisper, making her love with his stuff in the languish of flowers, and feeling the fine mushy, and wasn't that very both of them, the saucy sisters, Draheen O'Machree, and Beep, meaning what was most improper, Beepet, bar round the garden, trickle, twist, please, my man, may I go flirting? Farmer's gone with the groom, and how they used or mused or licked her and cuddled. I differ with ye. Are you sure of yourself now? You're a lawyer, excuse me. I will not, and you're another, and lolly holding their breach of the peace for them. Poor old lolly, to give and to take, and to forego the past, and all will be forgotten. It was too bad to be falling out about her kindness pet, and the shape of rags time. Well, all right, Lily, and shake a hand, and shake a small. For Craig's sake, be it suck.
That was Richard Harte reading pages 92 to 96 of Chapter 4 from Finnegans Wake, recorded live at Type Books on Queen Street West in Toronto on January 22nd, 2024. Join us for episode 20 in a fortnight when Richard continues Chapter 4 of Finnegans Wake. In the meantime, to be sure you don't miss the episode, why not follow or subscribe to this podcast? For more on One Little Goat's Finnegans Wake project, including transcripts of this podcast and the complete films of chapters 1 and 2, visit our website at onelittlegoat.org. And to hear about upcoming performances and screenings, please join our mailing list, also on our website. One Little Goat Theatre Company is a non-profit, artist-driven registered charity in the United States and Canada that depends on donations from individuals to make our productions, including this one, possible. If you're able, please make a tax-deductible donation through our website, www.onelittlegoat.org. Finnegans Wake is made possible by friends of One Little Goat Theatre Company and the Emigrant Support Programme of the Government of Ireland. Thank you for your support. And thank you to the artists for this episode: Richard Harte, sound by William Bembridge, stage management by Sandi Becker, directed by yours truly, Adam Seelig. A big thanks to Claire Foster and the staff and owners of Type Books, as well as to our wonderful live audience. Thank you to everyone at the Irish Consulate in Toronto, and thank you to production consultants Cathy Murphy, Andrew Moodie, and Shai Rotbard-Seelig. Thank you for listening.